Hi, this is needlepointers.com with a video on how to machine embroider a design in the center of a t-shirt. You will need an embroidery machine for this project. I have a Brother Innovis 4000D machine, and I purchased this pattern of Rainbow Dash from a seller on Etsy. I will include a link to the pattern in case you're interested. I'm going to have to place my hoop this direction because since Rainbow Dash is sideways on the computer. If your pattern is right side up, then you would place your hoop this direction. But the procedure for placing the hoop is pretty much the same no matter what. It's just that, you know, which direction you place the hoop. You also want to make sure that your pattern is facing the correct direction so that when it stitches out upright, especially if you're going to do it like I am with it sideways. Make sure it's upright and not upside down when you actually stitch the pattern out. I've also have my thread ready, and the pattern tells me which colors I need in which order. So I use this handy egg carton to hold my thread in order, and I have little numbers on each of the posts here, so I can know what order I'm going in, and I have them all set out. So that makes it quick and easy. Okay, so when I embroider a t-shirt, I use this self-adhesive tearaway stabilizer. This is the best for t-shirts, I find, because with the t-shirt it's so stretchy in different directions that you don't want the fabric to stretch out while you're embroidering, and the stickiness of the stabilizer keeps it in place and makes sure that it doesn't get pushed aside by the machine as you're stitching. So one of the first things you have to do is cut your stabilizer a little bit bigger than the hoop size that you're using. I can set aside the hoop for a second. And the first thing you have to do is put this sticky stabilizer on, but you got to put it on the inside of the shirt, since it's just tearaway stabilizer, so it's still going to show. So I've turned the shirt, and you can see the tag is on the back, so this is the front side of the shirt. Make sure you're sticking the stabilizer on the front side, unless you want to embroider on the back. And then it doesn't have to be exact, because you have a little bit of leeway. But you want to put the stabilizer in approximately where the stitching is going to be happening and the hoop's going to be placed. Get it started. Alright. So I usually do something like this, and I pull it back partially, and then it doesn't have to be exactly straight or anything, because where you're placing your hoop is the important thing. And if you feel like you're not going to be able to get it centered real well or in the right spot, you can always cut the stabilizer. You can cut the stabilizer larger to take over a bigger spot, and that way you'll make sure you hit the right area. So now I'm going to turn the t-shirt back to the right side. Okay, I have my t-shirt turned to the right side, and the first thing I need to do is I want to put a crease down the center of the t-shirt, so I have that to line it up with the hoop, so I have a way so I can make sure that my hoop is straight. So what I do usually is I'm going to fold the t-shirt in half. I'm sure there's many ways you can do this, and this is just the way I do it. I don't particularly know it's the absolute correct way to do it, but it seems to work for me. So I make sure I line up the sides of the t-shirt and the seams, the shoulder seams, and the collar, so that I can be pretty sure I'm in the center. I mean, if it's a tiny bit off, I don't think it's that noticeable. If it's really far off, then it's going to be noticeable. So I'm trying to make a nice crease, and I'm just finger pressing. You could probably iron it, but you only need the crease for a short time until you get the hoop on, and then you don't need it anymore. So now I have a nice little crease in the middle of my t-shirt. Okay, so now I'm going to get my hoop in the bottom. I want the bottom part of the hoop because I'm going to stick that inside the shirt in the correct direction. And I'm going to try to just guess at its location at this point. And then I take the top part and I'm going to figure out where this is. Now, if your crease isn't showing up, you could always put pins here. All right. So I put the bottom hoop inside and I have the top hoop here. If you have trouble seeing your creases, I also turn on the lights. I just realized I didn't have the lights on. You can put a couple pins just to point out where this crease line is. So this is my top hoop, and my hoop comes with this nice little grid that can be placed on it that helps you line things up. If yours doesn't have this grid, then you can use a measure, like a measuring tape or something, and you can measure, from your center line to the edge of your hoop in different positions to make sure that you're straight and you have an equal distance both directions and stuff like that to make sure you got it right. So I can see. I'm just adjusting it a teeny bit back and forth. So now I can see I have my crease is right there in the middle, and it's going from here down to there. The other thing you have to do is make sure that you're placing your pattern correctly up and down on the t-shirt, because depending on if this was facing the other direction, it's pretty tall, and depending on where you want your pattern to show up, you may want, a lot of times I'll hoop it as close as I can to the top, right? And then on your machine, you can adjust where the pattern's going to be placed up and down to make sure that you get it in a good spot. So that gives me, so I now have that hooped pretty well. And just to be sure, a lot of times I will just measure from somewhere like this up to the shoulder to make sure it's pretty close. So that's pretty close. Just to double check. And then I will have to tighten it, reach inside here to where my thing is, and I want to tighten it up to make sure it's tight, nice and tight. So now I have this hooped, and then what you have to do is you have to get the back fabric out of the way, and all of this other fabric and the sleeves and everything out of the way so that we can stitch this. So I flipped it mostly to the front because you definitely don't want it getting caught underneath. But you can see there's the stabilizer underneath, and you want to make enough space, try to make sure you have enough space. If you're doing like an extra small or a really small kid's t-shirt, it can be a little bit challenging sometimes, and then sometimes you have to actually hold the fabric a little bit while it's stitching. Okay, here, so I'm at my machine now, and I've put in my bobbin thread, and I put my first color in the top thread. And I have the t-shirt here. You can see it's all to the front. And I'm going to insert it into the machine. I have to push the fabric through there. Make sure. And lock it down. And you want to make sure that your fabric is going to be out of the way for sure, because you definitely don't want to have it get caught. Alright, so the first thing I like to do is to verify that my pattern is facing the correct direction. And here I can see my pattern is facing that way, facing this way, and my collar is here, so it's going to stitch out in the correct direction. The other thing I like to do is I like to check to see where it's going to actually place the pattern. And my machine has this handy feature. I can move to the bottom so I can see that's where the bottom's going to be. And it's going to stitch, oh, this one is going to stitch pretty much the whole width. So it's going to come up to the top. If you have a smaller pattern, it might be stitching just in the middle of your hoop there. And so you want to make sure that, that when it's stitching in the middle, that you have it at the right placement, because it might end up like if it's stitching in the middle and you, depending on how far down from the top here you've placed it, you might end up with it pretty far down on the shirt. So you want to, you can always move your pattern left to right, or usually you can have a way to move your pattern left to right or up and down depending on which way your hoop is facing, to adjust the positioning. Since mine's pretty wide, he's going to go all the way over there, and he's going to be pretty big on this shirt. So I'm going to start stitching, and then I put down the presser foot, and it's going to start with the first color. So this pattern has 13 colors, and my machine says that it will take 64 minutes to stitch this out. So I definitely don't want to bore you with the whole stitching out of this pattern. The more the idea of the video was to actually show you how to hoop and how to start, how to get started with putting your hoop and everything and the stabilizer on the t-shirt. So I will stitch this out, and I'll come back at the end and show you how the t-shirt turned out. Hi, I'm back. My stitching just finished up. So here's my finished pony, My Little Pony. This is Rainbow Dash, if you don't know. So I'm going to take it out of the frame now, and then and there's the finished t-shirt. So the only steps that you have left to finish the t-shirt is just, this is tearaway stabilizer, sticky, so I can tear this off, the extra stabilizer. And then you can cut the strands, your extras, your jumps, well, your long strands that are back here. Now what I do usually for my kids when I've embroidered something like this is that I'll take a piece of interfacing, fusible interfacing, and I'll cut it out a little, kind of around this shape around here, about that big, and I'll iron this on. and because that's a little softer than the embroidery, and I figured that might make it a little softer for them against their skin. So there we go. And a finished t-shirt. So thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please click on the like button and also subscribe to our channel. Visit needlepointers.com for more machine embroidery projects and information.